Today we're going to work on a solo arrangement of Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell. This was voted on over at my Patreon page, where every month we do a different tutorial based on votes of my patrons. So if you're interested in helping decide what next month's tutorial is, check it out in the link down in the description below. You can also find the tab download there as well. But let's go ahead and dive in. Now, when we're playing this, if you notice on the tab and on the sheet here, you'll see that there are lyrics that associate with some of the notes. It's really important that you play those louder because they're the melody. Whenever there's a lyric, it's melody. And whenever there's no lyric, no word, you want to play a little bit softer because it's meant to be more of a harmony fill. So let's go ahead and dive into measure 1. We're going to start with bows and flows of. To do this, we're going to start with just our ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the E string. And I like to use my thumb to strum through my G, C, and E, stopping my thumb on the A string. That's the word bows. Then I'm going to play the 3 on the E again, and then I'm going to take my index finger, place on the 1st fret of the E string, and play that for flows, and then the open E string for the word of. So that first measure, bows and flows of. And now we go on to measure 2, angel, hair, and. And for angel, we're going to take our index finger, place it here on the 1st fret of the E string, and we're going to strum our G, C, and E strings, stopping again on that A string. Then we're going to play the open G string, and then the open C for the words angel, hair. Now, if you're playing on a low G ukulele, you'll want to play 3 on the E string instead of that open G. But most people play high G, and so that high G works better in that case. Angel, hair. And then you'll notice we've got our first fill. We just play a C chord here. Ring finger goes to the 3rd fret of the A string. And then you're going to strum through all 4 strings. Nice and soft, though, because there's no word. And then the last part of that measure is going to be the word and. You just take your middle finger, place it here on the 2nd fret of the C string. So that measure 2, sounds something like this. Angel, hair, and. So we go on to measure 3. We're going to start with open on the C and the E, and I, again, will use my thumb to just strike those 2 strings, stopping on the A string. And that's the word ice, and then cream will be 3 on the E with your ring finger. Play that note again. And then take your middle finger and place it on 2 of the A for O's of castles. So we have ice, cream, castles. Now as we go on to measure 4, notice where your fingers are here. Take the ring finger off, leave the middle finger on, and place the index finger on 1 of the E string. And now you have what you need for the word in. Playing now the C, E, and A, foregoing the G string. And then immediately add the ring finger to 3 on the A. You can leave the other fingers where they are, though, for just that note, for that's in the. And then the word air, you take your index finger off to play 0 on the C, E, and A all together for a C chord. And the very last word there is the word and, which you'll just play the 3 on the A. So 4 is in the air, and. So that we can hear it, though, here's the entirety of this first stanza, measures 1, 2, 3, and 4, with saying the words. Should be something like this. Bows, bows, bows. Helps if you know the words, but anyways. Bows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air. And I think it's bows and flows. That would rhyme, but you get the gist. Now we move on to measure 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to start here with the C chord, index finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. It's important that we use the index here because on feather, we're going to jump our pinky up to 7 on the A. So we have feather. And then canyons, what we're going to do is take our middle finger and play 5 on the C string and then the open G. So it goes feather canyons. And then everywhere, we're going to move all the way back down, index finger here on the 1st fret of the E string, everywhere. And all that we're doing there is taking that finger off and putting it back on. And then you'll notice at the end of measure 6, we've got a little fill. So we play it nice and soft. Again, no words. So we're going to play open G, open C, 1 on the E. and let it ring there for just a moment. So measures 5 and 6 are something like feather canyons everywhere. As we go on the next phrase here, we're going to add our middle finger on 2 of the C, and we're going to pluck our C and E strings together. And nice and soft because there's no words there. And then we'll follow that with 3 on the E. Just add your ring finger here to the 3 on the E string. We're going to play this note 3 times for the words I've looked at, and then we're going to take it back off to leave 1 on the E for the word clouds, and then put it back on for the word that. So that measure is I've looked at clouds that, and then we go to 2 on the C, which is already there, and we're going to play that C string and then the open G. But while I play the open G, I'm going to look ahead and see that it's a G chord that follows. So as I play that open G, which is a filler note, no lyrics there, so I play a little softer, I'm then going to reposition my fingers, index here on the 2nd fret of the C string, ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the E string, middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the A, and strum through that chord. So that is the open G, then the G chord. And then the very end here on measure 8, we're going to play the 3 on the E by itself for the word but. So measure 8 sounds something like this, way, but. And so that we can hear it, here's measures 5, 6, 7, 8 going through this whole stanza. Feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way. But now we go on to measure 9, and measure 9 is actually very similar to measure 1. It's a little bit different rhythmically, but it's the same notes. We're going to start here with the ring finger here on the 3 of the E string and play those just like we did at the start. Then we'll play 3 on the E again for the word they. So we have now, they, and then only. So what that is the index finger here on 1 of the E string for the word own of only, then open for li. The different rhythm that I was talking about is, you'll notice here, it's what's called a dotted quarter note, when before it was a quarter note. All that means is that it lasts a little bit longer. So in measure 1, where it was bows and flows of, or excuse me, we already went over this, right? Bows and flows of. Now it's going to be the word now, they only. The word now is a little bit longer, and then the words they, or the word they, is a little bit shorter. So it goes now, they only. It sounds like this. Now, they only. So we go on from here to measure 10, block the sun. They, that's exactly the same as measure 2, just with some different words. So index finger here on 1 of the E, ring finger to 3 on the E. That's block the sun, open C. Filler C chord, nice and soft, then 2 on the C. Exactly the same as measure 2. And the continuity continues. Measure 11, rain and snow on, is exactly the same as measure 3, which was ice cream castles. Same stuff, pretty neat. So measure 11, rain and snow on, and then it goes everyone. So measure 12 there is actually exactly the same as measure 4, in the air, and. Kind of neat. So when you learn the beginning of the song, you'll notice you're learning some of the later parts of the song too. So that we can hear this, measures 9, 10, 11, 12 should sound something like this. Now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So, and then as we go on here to measure 13, you're going to notice that measure 13 looks familiar because it's the same as measure 5. So kick your index finger to 3 on the A, strum that C chord up to 7 on the A, then the 5 on the C, and then the open G. Exact same riff that we played on measure 5, just with different words. Now it's many things I, and then would have done is exactly the same as measure 6. Everywhere. It's exactly the same stuff. Pretty cool, right? As we go on to measure 15 here, but the clouds got in my, exactly the same as measure 7, which is I've looked at clouds that. Exactly the same. But now we're done with the same, because as we go here in measure 16, we're going to play the 2 on the C. But this time, you'll notice that the end of measure 16 is much different than the end of measure 8 was. So we're going to play the 2 on the C, and I like to use my index finger here to play this 2 on the C, because we're immediately going to use this to go into a little bit of a strum fill. For this strum fill, we're going to build a G chord, so index there on the 2nd fret of the C string, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the E, middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the A. And we're going to go down, down, up for the end of that. Now, a quick tip, if you haven't strummed fills or anything like this before, we can't do 2 down strums in a row. So really when it's down, down, up, it's actually down, miss coming up, and then down, up, down, up. So measure 16 is a little different. It sounds something like this. Way, down, miss, down, up, down, up. And so that we can hear it, here's 13, 14, 15, and 16, which again, 13 is the same measure as 5, 14 is the same as 6, 15 is the same as 7, and then 16 is almost the same as 8, but just a little bit different. So it sounds something like this with the words. Many things I would have done, but clouds got in my. I keep wanting to add a the in the but the clouds. And to talk on that for just a moment, sometimes it's okay to add notes as you're playing as long as rhythmically it fits. So if you feel a melody a little bit different than what's on the tab, it's okay to depart a little bit from it. But let's go ahead and try that again with but clouds instead of me trying to put but the clouds. So measure 13, 14, 15, and 16. Many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. Now, as we go on to measure 17 here, this is the main kind of hook of the song, I think, the chorus. And I really like it. It sounds really good on the uke, I think. It's also going to use some alternate chord voicings as we go through. But let's go ahead and look at measures 17, 18, 19, and 20. We're going to start here on measure 17. We're going to play all open on the G, C, and E strings, but no melody note, so we play it a little bit softer. Then your pinky is going to play 7 on the A string, and we're going to play that 7, I've looked at, for those words. And then we're going to play 5 on the A string, and what we can do here is play it with our middle finger, and then that's the word clouds. And we follow this with the word from, 7 on the A again with the pinky. So we look something like this. I've looked at clouds from. And here's where it gets spicy. We're going to play a bar chord all the way up the ukulele. So to do this, we're going to take our pinky, which is already at 7. We're going to slide it up to fret 8. Then we're going to take our index finger and bar it across 5 of the G, C, E strings and play through all 4 strings for the word both. And then for sides, we're going to have our pinky come off and our ring finger come on to 7 of the A. Quick little tip, put the ring finger on first so that you don't get a disruption in the sound. You can make it more seamless that way. So we have both sides, and this is where it gets a little tricky. There's 2 ways you can do this. The first way is you can just move this bar down to fret 3 and add the middle finger here to 4 on the C and play just the C and the E strings together. And that's the word now. So it goes like this. It goes both sides now. Now, I personally like to actually move the index down to be here barred only across the E and A strings. I just find that a little bit easier. And so both will work, the full bar or just the bar over the E and the A. So whatever you find more comfortable, I'd pursue to try to get it, sounding nice. Both sides now, or both sides now. Now, the reason we need this bar is the very last note of measure 18 is a 3 on the A. And we need to make sure that we play that for the word from. So it goes both sides now, and then from. Both sides now, from. Both ways work. Now, as we go on to measure 19, we're basically going to play the same thing as 18, but a little bit of a difference. We're not going to be barring all the way across 5. We're instead going to have just our index finger here on 5 of the E string, leaving the G and C open, and then take your pinky up to 8 on the A and strum your C, E, and A strings. And this creates a nice bass line. You can feel that the C string is moving from 5 to 4 with now to open. It's going to play the same line. We're going to play 0, 5, 8 down to the 7, and then we're going to move to that same little bar. Now, what's interesting is this time you might like this way more because the index finger is already on the E and the A strings coming off this. So you can try it both ways and kind of custom suit it to whichever part of the song you're in and whatever's comfortable. And we'll play the 3 on the A to conclude measure 19. But then as it goes to measure 20, it's exactly the same as measure 18. Exactly the same in every way. So measure 19 is a little bit different, and that creates some nice movement. So measures 17, 18, 19, and 20 should sound something like this. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's... And now we go to the next set here. Cloud Illusions for measure 21. We're going to go to our G chord, same way we played it earlier, index, ring, middle. We're going to strum through it with our thumb, and then we're going to strum through it with our index finger. And we know that it's an index finger strum because you'll see that little strum marker. Same ones that were used earlier on measure 16. When you see that little, 3/4 square, that means to do a down strum. Then we're immediately going to play 3 on the A, and you can just add your pinky there to the G chord to get that. Follow that by 2 on the A. And then a little quick hit at the end of the measure here. We're going to go to an F, but we don't need to build a full F. We just need to take our index finger and place it here on 1 of the E string. Strike your C, E, and A strings together. Now as we go into 22, we're going to add our ring finger back here on 3 of the E and play the 0, C, and 3 E together. And that's the word I. And then we're going to play recall 0 on the C twice. And so just so that you can hear that 21 to 22, it sounds something like this. It goes, cloud, illusions, I recall. As we finish 22, it goes back to the 3 on the E, ring finger here to 3 on the E string. And then we go into measure 23, and this is a nice little run with some pull-off. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set up our index finger on 1 of the E string. We're going to pluck our C and E. And then we're going to pull off our ring finger off of the 3rd fret of the E string, leaving our index finger here on the 1st fret of the E. To do a really good pull off, what you want to make sure is that you don't just pull the finger off, but you actually physically pluck it. And to make sure that you don't get the A string ringing, my index finger here is kind of muting it. So this is a tricky section. It takes some practice, but now that's re, and then li is going to be 1, pull off to the open. Same logic. Now, if you're struggling with getting the open A, what you can do with the pull off is if you kind of pull it at an angle and a little bit out, you can kind of avoid that A string. Again, take some practice. Then we'll play the open E again for the word don't, and then open C for no. So that goes really don't know, right? Really don't know. And then measure 24 is going to be the word clouds for the open C. And then we're going to start some strumming stuff. Now, before we go on to that, let's hear what it sounds like, measures 21, 22, 23, and the beginning of 24. It should sound something like this. Cloud, illusions, I recall, I really clouds. Now we go into 24 here, and we're going to play a down strum, and then we're going to miss. This is tricky. You want to make sure when you do this at the end of 24, you see the down strum, and it's a dotted quarter note. So we're going to go 1 and 2. So we want to make sure that we miss the strings coming up as well as going back down, and then conclude that measure with an up, down, up. But when we do the up, down, up, we switch chords. We're going to take our index finger and add it here on the 1st fret of the E string. Up, down. So we have down on the C chord, miss, up, down, up on this chord, which is called a C sus4 if you're curious, or an F sus2. But it's a pretty sounding chord. So now we go on to measure 25, and this is through the end, which is awesome. So this is the end of the tune now. We're going to start with a C chord. We're going to do a down, miss, Excuse me, we're going to do a down, miss, followed by another down. On measure 25, it's 2 downs in a row, but then we're going to do the miss, miss that I just mentioned. So it goes down, miss, miss. And then we're going to come up on that same C sus4, F sus2 chord, come up with your fingers. But what I like to do here is when I do this up strum, I'm going to keep my middle finger ready to go, because then I'm going to try to pluck my open E string, taking this first fret off, and then 2 on the C with my index finger plucked. So that goes down, down, miss, miss, up, open, 2, and that's at all, the end of the song, the very last words of the song. So it's really important to play those at all and get that sound. But then what's cool is once you have that down, miss, miss, up, at all, it's then strummed for the remainder of the song. So the rest of the song is going to do this sort of pattern where you do a down, miss, up, down, up for measure 26. And then measure 27 and 28 are the same pattern. They're identical. And what that pattern is going down, miss, miss, up, down, miss, up, down, up, using that same little F sus chord on the up, down, up at the ends. And at the very end there on measure 28, the very last thing that you'll play is going to just be a C chord. So I like to kind of slow down into this, but here's what it sounds like. Measures 25 through the end, something like this. Down, miss, up, at all. Down, miss, up, down, miss, up, down, miss, up, down. So when you're playing that, I like to slow down as I do this. And you can even repeat it more. It's okay. It's whatever you want to do with that part. But that concludes this tune. It was a really fun one to work on. I'm not as familiar with her music as I am some other artists, so it was really cool for me. And that's what I really love about that Patreon page is I get song suggestions of tunes I really don't know, kind of like this one. But I think it came out really nice on the uke, and I was having fun listening to it throughout the week when I thought it was going to win the vote. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next month for the next episode of the song tutorial series, where we will work on a tutorial of whatever songs you guys over at the Patreon page decide. Thank you so much, and have a great one.